girl Queen A. So y'all
Mm,
already do right here. So we bring in guests from all over the globe, right? And we bring mindset awareness, right? That's why we call it Slapping with Truth. Today we have a
mm.
lovely speaker, right? A lovely speaker. And we're going to be talking about how men, young men being raised by women, how it affects them. So instead of Queen A talking about it, I thought I'd have a man king come on here, right, and speak to you all about it. So before we get into all that, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Mr. John Johnson, y'all. Hey, how you doing, love?
What's going on, Queen? What's good? Yeah, doing great, doing
Hey,
great, doing great.
that's good. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, first of all, honor to be here and giving great honor and glory to Most High. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to just build and fellowship, with another like mind. So I'm grateful. So shout out to you and this platform. Slap them with truth. Come on, let's get it. We're gonna get some truth today. So, a little about me. Yeah, right now, so I am a full-time entrepreneur and a servant, and so I know Queen A, we've talked about doing similar work, but just yeah, giving back. I would call it, it's just community service, it's ministry. But being able to really go in and out of schools and organizations and do different speaking engagements, workshops, programs, and things of that nature. I've worked primarily with youth, so a lot of background in student affairs, but also have some, sprinkle of some teachers and staff as well, professional development, things like that. So really just training things around emotional intelligence, social emotional learning, effective communication strategies, and I would say marketing, sort of like personal branding, if you would, like kind of how you show up, things like that. So those are some of the areas we've been able to pour into and serve. Oh, I think you on mute. Hmm.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I got
Hmm.
some, of course, they want to be doing construction today. So they doing construction like right here.
Mm,
I had put it on mute because I was like,
got
I
you.
don't want it to be in the video. So if y'all hear that, that's what it
Oh,
is. They got to
okay.
go into construction. So, but I just
Got
want to
you.
say, I commend you. We need more men like
Mm,
you in that space of servicing.
mm,
And I know when we
mm,
talked last time, one of the things that we both shared in common was we wanted to hit
mhm,
on young men being raised by women because that's what it is out here,
mhm,
right? It's a lot of men being raised by women and the effect on your end, So, and this is great because we can see how it is from a woman's point of view and from a man's point of
mm.
view, for as the
Yes.
effect that it has on our young men out here and what we're starting to see. So, can
Mm.
you just like elaborate on that? Like, first off, I just want to ask you, how do you feel about young men being raised by women predominantly? Like, right? That's what they're predominantly
Mm,
raised by. Aunties,
mm.
grandmas, and their moms.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, for sure. I think, I'm just thinking about the platform too. But I think I'll save that for the end. I think I'll save that for the end. So yeah, just in this space, man, what do I think about men growing up with women? I think it is a unique thing. I think it's could be similar to how a young woman might have to grow with a dad as far as some of that imbalance that take place, and not feeling a certain sort of connection. So I know that connecting with some fathers, some of the issues they've shared is like, or maybe not even issues, but just challenges or areas of growth is like, learning how to do their hair, right? Learning how to do their daughter's hair and, dealing with things around, their menstrual and learning more skill sets around that, right? Because that's not something you primarily do. So when I think about the man and a mom, I think that's a unique thing. I think that it can be problematic at times, right? And when I say that, I think if you're not aware of the emotions that you kind of have and that you need to get poured into and that you need support around, like it could become pressuring, right? Like it could become stressful. And so now you're looking for areas to channel that energy and maybe you're not able to. And so if I think about my experience, I definitely so for me, it was like growing closer to my emotions, right? So I was always encouraged to like talk about how I felt, um, you know, express how I felt. There was also a more like empathetic and sympathetic kind of environment. Whereas I know some men kind of encourage like a, boys don't cry kind of deal, or yo, like, if this person hits you, you go back to school, you hit them back, right? Like no time for excuses, right? Like some of that sharp, really firm sort of styles of like leadership. Some that honestly I've now adopted too with my mentees and how I lead. I didn't really have that, right? It was a lot more like, okay, you got this. Like it was a softer approach. And then wherever my mom didn't um attend to, it was like my older sister kind of filled in that gap. So I had like a double whammy there with my second mom, I call her. And so I think it was unique. You know what I'm saying? I think it was unique and I'm super grateful for them. But I think at a certain point, like I shared with you, right? Like it came to a point where like, okay, I need to like learn how to channel some of these emotions I'm having, like that I feel is not being addressed, right? So you start to feel you can feel kind of unseen, unheard, misunderstood. Particularly for me, I was the oldest male, so I was the only male in my house for some time until my younger siblings were born, right? Also single mom, so I think that's another dynamic. Not to take away from maybe like a two-parent household, but I think with the single mom, that was also kind of emphasized. So it's just you start to feel certain disconnects, right? Like you kind of become taller than your mom, right? You got like a deeper voice. You coming into puberty, your frame. A lot of times you're bigger or taller as a young man, and so you're kind of trying to work those things out. And then not to mention, I think just social life, right? Like if you're interested in women, right? Like that now becomes a thing, right? So like how you either look for the woman in your household outside and partners. So at times I was successful because I was, so close to women. So I kind of got to learn how they think and what they would appreciate and sort of that attention to detail, what they say, like sentimental things, right? Like I understood what it means to get a card and get some flowers and, like make somebody smile, right? But then there were certain things where I'm like, man, I'm not really sure how to approach this from a male's point of view. Like, how do I engage necessarily like with a woman? Like, how do I, um, you know, um, like address a young woman? What is the respectful way to do so? So my mom and my sister definitely had those conversations with me, but I just think hearing from a male's point of view later on for me just did wonders. Like it's just certain things, right? You just wanted to lean more so. So yeah, it was challenging in a lot of ways because then you have to kind of the next best is like your bros or your friends. Um, but at the same time, I do feel like it's an advantage because as I grow now, I'm seeing that a lot of our young men are struggling with looking inward and being in tune with their emotions and things like that. So, I would say it's a mix. But yeah, it's kind of all how you kind of put it together.
I like how you was very careful with,
Mm,
I'm like, look at him trying to be careful with,
you
how
know what
he
I
worded
mean?
it. I love that because, you
Mm,
know, Queen A is, they know I'm a clarity coach, so they know I get straight to it. I go straight in. So they know, I
mm,
like how you was like
mm.
trying to pick and choose, like, let me see. But that's
Yeah,
great though that you did that
yeah,
because
yeah.
one of the things I heard you say is like, because I was a single mom, right?
Mm,
And
mm-hmm,
I was raising boys. Like you
mm,
met my daughter, but I have sons
mm-hmm.
older than her, right? So and they're
Mm.
taller than me. I heard you say that, right? They're taller than
Yeah,
me. The voice gets
yeah,
deeper.
yeah.
And as a mom, I know for
Mm,
me, a lot
mm,
of people say they like, oh well, you women be more masculine, but it forces a lot of women to be more masculine because when you are a
mm,
single mom and you're raising a young man, it's like you find
mm.
yourself having to. For me, I found myself having to
Yeah.
be the punisher, the lover,
Mm,
the
mm,
influencer. That I got to be everything at once. So it's like I got
mm,
to be the
mm.
disciplinary. I got to be the one to also sometimes be slack, raise slack on them. Like, okay, well, I had you on punishment, but I got to be the one to take you off sometimes early because you don't have that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So how did
yeah,
you
yeah.
being raised with your mom? I want to hear from a man's point of view because I'm not a man, and I know it
Hmm.
becomes a task where you like, okay, look, I'm like you said, I'm taller than her, my voice deeper. How did
Right.
you channel them emotions, or what kind of thoughts was going through your head at that time when you was taller than your mom? Like,
Mm.
how did that
Yeah,
feel?
for
Like,
sure. That's a great
sometimes
one.
boys start feeling like, I could take on mom, right? Like she don't own me, I'm a taller than her. So how was
Right.
it for you?
Right. Right, for sure, for sure, for sure. That was on point. Yeah. And so, like I said, it was a mix. I think earlier on it was like, okay, that's my mom, right? Like I understand, like this is who raised me. This is, my point of support. This is my guardian. Like I think earlier on, right? Until I hit like this one age, I think it was around 14 or 15, right? Queen. And it was like, it was a struggle. Like I just don't remember not getting in trouble. I just was going through it with my mom. And this was, I would never forget this time of my life because I couldn't I couldn't get over it. Like it's just like I couldn't see the day. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a day where it was just like, yo, John is in trouble. And I couldn't understand it. For me, my biggest thing was one of the biggest things was like talking back. I always wanted to get my point across. Ironically, here we are with a speaking business, but like I think before that though, truthfully, I just, some of that back talk, you know what I mean? Like my mom was just big on like, do not talk back to me. You know what I mean? We grew up in a very principle heavy household, like scolding was a thing, like getting in trouble, like principles, character, perspective, respecting others, like it was just so huge. And I just always felt that I wasn't getting fully understood. That was my struggle. And so in trying to communicate myself, I'm like, yo, here's what's going on. And it was a matter of like, well, no, I'm the parent. You know what I mean? Like I have your best interest. And that's the household I grew up in, the Caribbean household. You know what I mean? Like I brought you in this world, right? Like I could take you out, you know what I mean? But and my
Right.
mom didn't mean that per se, but that's kind of just, Caribbean. That's just, you know what I mean? And not only Caribbean, I think just for a lot of us. So that's kind of the culture. And so I respected that. I grew to understand that. But earlier on, it was a struggle and it was frustrating. And so one of the things that would always send me over the top was when not only would I get a lecture from my mom, but she would call her friends and the neighbors and my church family and them. So I grew up in church, you know what I mean? So like that was like for real my family. So I'm probably gonna see them in a few days. And so it was nothing worse than already going through your situation and then boom, you hear your mom in the kitchen while she's cooking. You wouldn't believe what John did to me, you know what I mean? And she's extravagant and she's like, exaggerating the story a little bit, because again, disrespect is big. So it's like, yo, you wouldn't believe what this young man who I'm raising, right? All of that. And so I would just be like hearing it and really going through it, man. And it was tough, but I'll never forget my spiritual mother, may her soul rest in peace. I used to call her grandma. She was the matriarch of our church. She was the pastor, and she would come in moments like that. My mom would call her for support, like, hey, he's getting out of control. And she would come no matter what time of the night, 8, 9, 10, come drive. And literally she lives in Brooklyn, but it's so far away that it was like a 30, 40 minute drive maybe. And she would come over and every time I would always remember seeing her come out the window, and we on the 15th floor, and I was look all the way down and see this elderly lady. Grandma had to be like in her 70s coming out the minivan with her sons. Her sons were grown men, like 40, and they coming out. And she would be coming out the car. I'm like, here we go again. Like I knew that was my whooping, and she would be coming to give me a lecture, a spiritual lecture, a sort of, you know, just like just a word of encouragement, but also like to get me back on track. And all of those times, I'm here as an example, like it paid off, and it was tough. But sitting through them allowed me to kind of get back to my just my focus. And it was a scripture that she always would show me. I forget, I don't want to say it's in Exodus, I don't want to quote it wrong, but I know the scripture is a famous one. A lot of people, some people know, some people don't, but it's honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days may be long in the land that I live in. And she would have me read that whole chapter. I hate that it slipped my mind right now, but like I will always remember that verse. And she would just add, I'd be like, but grandma, you don't understand, like, but mom, and I would always be, but mom, like she's doing it. And she would always stop me and say, JJ, you know what I mean? Bite your tongue, right? Like bite your tongue, honor your mother, bite your tongue, right? And we would talk about the tongue in James chapter 3, the book of James 3, that the tongue is powerful, right? Like what comes out of it, right? What comes out of your mouth, and how you could really just, really do things that you regret just based on what you say and think and do. And so things like this help me to kind of critique and sort of like edit my character and sort of edit my behavior, I should say. and shine more of who I really was. Because sometimes anger will make you become things that you're not. And I think that's what a lot of our young people and young men are dealing with. And so to answer your question, that's kind of how it was for me because it was support. But really it was my church family. I didn't really have too much mentors. That's why I think I go so hard today to pour into too. But yeah, it was rough at times. Like I think I'm really big on my mom right now. A lot of people know, but I always like to be clear. Like it was a time where yeah, we wasn't seeing eye to eye, like especially growing up younger. I mean, even as I grew up, sometimes in college, there was, but that was a different level of me just communicating my boundaries and things like that. But earlier on, as I was starting to get into young manhood, those were some of the pressures. And how I dealt with it was I would say prayer, the word of God, and my elders who supported me, and they brought me back to those principles because it was never like, see, I told you, mom. It was like, oh, okay, I got to put my pride aside. I got it. She not out to get me. Boom. Then I graduate that next level. So that's the biggest thing I'm trying to push now is to help our young people understand, like, yo, graduate where you are now. It's not gonna be there forever. Like, it's not like you trying to get a one up on your mom or your dad or your teacher. Like, I don't think that's the answer, you know. And sometimes with that force of pride, it could make you want to skip steps. You know what I mean? Like, I'm taller than you. Like, nobody understand me in here. I'm the man of the house. And so I could have overridden, I could have compromised myself really in my rules. But luckily I was able to kind of bite that tongue and really, stay humble in the moment and not miss the message. Word.
Hey, that's
Crazy.
the main thing that you
Mm,
don't miss the message, right? Because a
mm,
lot of people we
mhm.
get so used to doing this, right? We don't
Yeah,
listen. We don't even hear
yeah,
what somebody's trying to say. A lot of times you ever be talking to
right.
somebody and y'all going back and forth, and then you realize like, hold on, we saying the same thing just in a different way.
Mm,
You got to like, hold
mhm,
on, hold on. You be like, I
mm,
understand what you're saying, and you have to like really like, hold on, let me explain. Like take the time and
yeah,
break it down so y'all can listen to what each other saying because y'all be so busy trying to over
yes,
talk each other, y'all don't even really hear.
yes,
So that's
yes,
one of the things. And one of the things
exactly.
I heard you say is you felt like you
Yeah.
was missing out as a young man being raised by a woman.
Mm,
And I'm pretty sure a lot
mm,
of men, young men, feel like that. So I want to ask
mhm,
you because
yeah,
I'm a single mother, and there's a lot of single moms out there, right? We are
yeah,
women. We don't understand men. So I want to ask
yeah.
you, what do you feel like a lot of women miss out on when they're raising a man? Because I heard you say like you felt like you wasn't being heard, and I hear that a lot from
Mm,
young men. Like they feel like they're not being heard. So just kind of touch on some things
mm,
that you feel like more women need to pay more attention to because let's face it, they're the ones raising a lot of our young men. So what are some things that you feel like we can pay more
mhm.
attention to in the future for anybody that's watching this?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Let me think for a second, bring my mind back there too. I would say, even just today, I actually got off my first hard work coaching call. Shout out Coach Love, man. That's basically like my therapy. And my start to therapy is extremely therapeutic. It's not therapy because I don't believe she's not like a licensed therapist, but such a gifted individual around the work of, mental health, spiritual, emotional, hard work. You know what I mean? Like just dealing with that. So I got my first session today in efforts of what we're all talking about. Like, practicing what we preach and just pouring into myself, understanding that there's different facets to you, not just working hard and producing, right? There's other things that we got to be aware of. You, not any mom or woman or, anyone, but you first, right? And then you can kind of communicate better to the world. But why I thought of that is one of the things she was talking to me about today, or we talked about, was like reframing my mind and giving myself grace and finding identity out of work, right? And I think that's what a lot of men a good group of men struggle with or work are going through. And we talked about that most men that she works with kind of has that high productivity level to them. High productivity, like men don't struggle with being productive, you know what I mean, like working. That's not our struggle, for the most part. We typically have bigger hands, you know what I'm saying, bigger bodies, you know what I mean. When you go down the road and you see construction, like you just talked about, you're doing construction, 9 times out of 10, maybe not all the time, 9 times out of 10, a good group of those guys out there are probably guys. You know what I mean? Like they're probably guys working like on these hard work things that we see. So when I think about that, right? Productive, even if you want to look at, I think, yeah, just I think that's wow, that's such a message on so many levels. I think about like violence, right? How active our young people want to get. Not just young men. I know that young women are definitely involved in a lot, but let's just stay on young men for a little bit. A lot of the cases I see just growing up in my neighborhood, low income projects, Brooklyn, New York, right? Like inner city, like a lot of it was my young men, my young counterparts, right? And they were getting active, like, and so because they maybe didn't have the proper um channels to channel that energy, I think sometimes you could get caught up with the wrong things, right? Even in dealing with social partners, women. A lot of my friends were like, it was body count this, body count that. How can you conquer woman? How can you raise your body count, right? Like how can you stay productive, in other words, right? And so I think sometimes it's about quality over quantity, right? It's quality over quantity. So not how much hours you could work, John, but like what are you doing within the hours, right? So not counting your hours, but making the hours count. You see what I'm saying? So if I circle that all the way back to young men, um, you're always celebrated when you're being productive, right? But how about like looking within? So I think just kind of like learning how to for the woman being able to let men occupy those spaces more, letting them know like they don't have to be so productive in certain ways, right? Like you don't have to produce to be valuable. You can be and just be, right? You don't have to do. I think my mom did that effectively. But then there were some times where like I know I had wanted to do sports at a certain time and she was like, I don't want you to be like every other male in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? Like sports and music. I just want you to know that you could do other things, right? And so I never was able to do sports, but I was able, heavily involved in church. So I think sometimes just that worked well for me, right? But later on, we still revisited and was like, "Hey, mom, why did you kind of didn't want me to go to sports?" And we still had to dive into that. So I think even going through that a little earlier on would have been more helpful for me, right? Again, it worked for me, so I have no regrets, and I'm grateful that my mom took that choice and encouraged me. Because at the end of the day, it's your choice. But yeah, just that, giving like your young men choices, right? And listening to them to see kind of what they are feeling, and not leaving it up to like society or chance, because yeah, we know that society is just gonna reward for doing, right? So just I think incorporating that being, and then also, I would say look at if you're a young man, like what roles they're playing, and encourage them that they are not their roles, right? So for me, I was a big brother. I was a heavily involved, altar boy, right? I was an involved student. I was pushed to achieve academic heights. So there was a lot of awards going on. So like I occupy roles, like so sometimes I felt that I had to grow up too fast, and I feel like that's true for a boy or girl. But in my case, what it felt like was being a dad, and all my family could attest to this. This is something I would say in front of them. My siblings, my sister, we could all say this, and I think we've each had our share of it in some way or not, just because of our family structure. So, no knock there. You know what I mean? Like we each have our situations, but for me, it was like, yeah, being a dad, being a husband in ways that, you know what I'm saying, overextension. Like when I think about men and productivity and young boys, like I think like a lot of us are called to be several different things that if we don't attend to the one that matters, which is ourselves, who we are as a person, right? Then a man, right? And then all them other stuff is later. But you and then a boy, like some of us are still boys. You got men who are 30, you know what I'm saying? My age, 30, 40, 50. I go home every now and then to the neighborhood where I'm come from, and they still in the same spot that I grew up and saw them. And they're like, yo, it's good, champ. How's upstate? How you doing, kid? Yo, you living, man. Yo, don't come back, man. And it's like, yeah, but what about you, man? You know what I mean? Like, how did I grow a couple years and it looked like it's such a and so I just think some of that needs to be dealt with, cleared up, and we got to graduate from those stages of boyhood and teenage, and young adulthood, and we need help to do that. You know what I mean? We don't need stress and strain. So,
All right. And
mm,
a lot of times, and I want to apologize for this because I heard you say something that I think, and I even think I
yeah,
know me as a mom, right?
mm,
That
mm,
I have done. We
mm,
expect so much from our young men. Like it's like
mhm.
when you're a man, we expect you to be able to do this, this, this. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that might not be that young man. You feel me? He might be
mm,
better in this area, but we're like you said, we're assuming because society said that's what the
yeah,
young do that that's what they should do. you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of young men have a hard problem because they do want to, elaborate or take a different journey or venture off. But it's like, well, man, I'm gonna let my mom down. My mom been there for me my whole life. I'm gonna let society
Hmm.
down. Society expect me to
Hmm.
do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even to the
Yeah.
point I want to ask you, do you feel
Yeah.
like it's okay for men to even show emotion? Because a lot of
Mm,
people, a lot of not me. I'm not one of them. I believe, I even raised
mm,
my son. It's okay to show emotion and cry because you have to be able to have an outlet. So for you, I
yeah.
want to know, how do you feel about men showing emotion? Because society expects y'all to be, macho all the time. And the saying is men don't cry. Only suckers cry, right? But how do you
Mm,
feel about that saying? Because that's what most of society tell you is that a man don't cry. Only suckers cry. So a lot of men feel like if they're in public, they
mm,
can't drop a tear until they get in private, and then they cry. So I
mhm,
just want to ask you something,
mhm.
how you feel about that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So that's important. Yeah, can men show emotions? Man, that's almost like a inhumane question. You know what I mean? Like, and not knocking you. I know what you're getting at. You know what I mean? But I like that's something that society asking right now. You know, and I think even just that question, it begs the question, right? It kind of points to a more bigger issue, right? Like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? We not allowing our guys to cry. There's one group that's not allowed to do something that we right? So like emotions are part of us, right? Emotional intelligence. That's what we're teaching right now. So like it's naturally a part of you, right? So like literally when you're born, the baby come out crying. Like he ain't ask permission, he or she ain't asked permission. They ain't wait. They don't care who in the room. I mean, they yelling as loud as you. In fact, that's how you know when a baby need help. You know what I mean? You listen if they cry. If they don't cry, you like something wrong. So at what point do we switch it and say, okay, actually bottle that up, keep moving, you know what I mean? Bag it and tag it, like, yo, no emotions, you're good, like, keep going, produce, produce, produce. That's wild, you know what I mean? And that's something I don't stand for. In a lot of my presentations, you'll actually see we actually share for the most part if it's comfortable enough because a lot of them times there's intimate spaces, but as long as I have permission and stuff like that, I'm usually transparent. I like to just share it to help promote that. And so I have some stuff on my platform now where I was actually crying during presentation in a space with men because as I'm sharing my story, I'm like, yo, I feel it. Like the thing has to convict me, and it's something that like I'm not just talking to you guys, but I'm living it, and I try my best to operate through that, So that's something that I take real serious. And I really encourage every young man to feel your emotions, whether that be tears, joy, sadness, uncertainty, pain. Sometimes you don't even have the words for your emotions. So there's things online that you can find. There's we used it in one of our past programs. I don't have my own, but the director was able to get one. I definitely want to get one. But it's basically a pillow with emotions on it. This would be good maybe for you too, Queen. Like just something like maybe you heard of it too. But like basically it got all the different kind of emotions. You know what I mean? And different teachers use differently. Some people got meters where you get a point on the weather, right? Like how you feeling today? What's your mood? The weather. Like find something I'm trying to get at, right? Find something that can help you communicate more about how you're feeling because that's really gonna free you up. There's actually research that shows there's emotions in the tears that come out. There's many times when you cry, you feel better. A lot of us could attest to that. You cry, you come back, you like, yo, I'm feeling a little more. Okay, hold on, I could keep going. Okay, wow, I was holding that back. Sometimes a person will say something to you, you don't know them from nowhere. They hit you, they hit a nerve. You start tearing up. You like, and you almost try to hold it back, but it's like, nah, let it go. You needed that. You see what I'm saying? So the body, it's like a natural response. So when we begin to hold that back, yeah, it's no question why there'll be problems and pressure and strain and stress. You know what I mean? That come into your life because you're not able to express. So we're trying to really encourage that and promote that because also I think I see a pattern of just a certain kind of emotion that's accepted, which is anger and frustration, force. I think if you're macho, right? If you're careless, there's a trend I've seen, even in the culture I grew up, I'll just speak from my experience. You know what I mean? Like it's more attractive for you to not care, you know? Like it's actually more attractive for you to kind of move like, no feelings, you know what I mean? And so that's something that I see that we definitely want to stop because emotion is important. And so it is more than okay for men to cry and show all of their emotions as a full person.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes. I mean, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people reality is that men don't
mm,
cry. But that's not
yeah,
real reality. Because we
yeah,
get caught up on, Facebook, and we get caught up on what society expectations of the world. We don't
yes,
focus on us. So one of the things I
yes.
heard you say is you got to focus on you first.
Mm,
And that's
mm,
that's the
mm-hmm,
main thing. That's the main thing I
yeah.
teach you is focusing on you. What do
Mm,
you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up, right? Not what society
yeah,
said you should be a firefighter or you should be a constructor. What do you really want to do?
right,
And like you said,
right.
also letting out one thing you said tears have feelings in them. That's
Mm,
true.
mm-hmm,
I don't know
mm-hmm.
nobody who doesn't cry and feel better. Like most of the
Yeah,
time when you cry, you like, oh my gosh, like you said, you needed that. You had to
right,
get it out. So if
right.
society is not allowing our young men to release that, that's where
Yeah.
I feel like we get a lot of this anger from, that
Mm,
we're seeing out here in this society because we have a lot of
mm.
young men that's on the corners all day and on the blocks all day. But guess what? These corners and blocks don't allow them to be them, right?
Yes, 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 yes. There's a quote that came to my mind with that, right? Like they say, it take a village to raise a child. You know what I mean? It takes a village to raise a child, but there's another connection to it. I just shared this with another group, right? Is that the child will actually burn down that village if it doesn't feel its love, just to embrace the warmth, right? So the child is going to burn down. Check that out. You know what I mean? Like it takes a village to raise a child, but check it. If we're not doing our role, each one teach one, each one reach one, right? What goes around comes around. Like the child will actually burn down the village just to feel the warmth. I'm gonna get this warmth now. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna get there. So check it. You thinking you holding me back? Somebody gonna cry, and that's problems, and we see that all the time. You know what I mean? We see that all the time, right? And we don't want our moms to cry anymore. We don't want our dads to cry, family members, cousins, grandma. Like, man, we through with that. We trying to embrace more emotions. You know what I mean? For you to not cry, it's almost like you numbing the pain, you numbing what you're going through. And so we embrace in my meetings that I try to have with our mentees. And we also say, you're never forced, you're always encouraged. You're never forced, you're always encouraged, right? But also I want you to know, like, be aware if you're numbing something, right? Do drugs help you get by? Is that something that's blocking your emotions? How does it make you feel? Right? Does getting high allow you to get through, or are you avoiding what you're doing? You know what I mean? Like, talk to me, and so it's no
Right.
judgment. Like, I grew up around marijuana and all of that kind of stuff. I never want you to feel anything, but at the same time, if you're expressing something to me that's not productive, well, now we have a conversation. You know what I mean? Because I want you to be fruitful. And if at 14, 15, 16, you're not learning how to properly address, acknowledge, and really like express your emotions, it's going to be a longer road than it could be. You know what I mean? Because you got a whole bunch of other stuff coming. So it's in your best interest to start practicing some good habits. You know what I mean? I don't know if the drugs could be as natural as tears. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? But you're always gonna have yourself. So if I might not be able to find an external, you know what I mean? I know I could trust in myself. I could look in the mirror. Hold on, I'm proud of you. With or without the high, with or without the alcohol, with or without the woman, with or without the, you know what I mean? The pornography, like with or without the, like, I'm proud of myself. And that take time. You got to spend time with yourself. So yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Mm,
You gave them
mm,
some you gave them some
mm.
tips on there. I hope y'all listening. For y'all out there,
Yeah,
I hope y'all listening. Because
yeah.
this man right here, like he just gave y'all
Mm,
some tools, especially if you a
mm,
young man out there. Take this
mm,
away. I want y'all to know that I feel y'all. I understand y'all.
mm.
I can, empathize
Yeah,
with y'all because I
yeah,
see the way society portray it. It's like,
yeah.
like, oh, well, because he's a man, he's supposed to do this. He's supposed to pay all the bills, and that's not true. Like because you're a
Mm,
man doesn't mean that. Maybe
yes,
you're that man that need a break so you can finish school. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, maybe
yeah,
you're that man that needs like, what, I just need time to myself today. Because women, we do it all the
yeah.
time, right? We like, well, I need time to myself. So I want y'all to know that Queen A feel y'all, which is why I brought Mr. John Johnson
Mm,
on here. So before we get out, I want you to let
mm,
them know how can they
mm.
find you, right? Because there's gonna be people
Yes.
on here like they gonna want to follow you. So just let them know how can they
Mm.
find you.
For sure, for sure. So tap in with me, man. Tap in. We are on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Easiest way is going to be John Johnson Speaks on Instagram. So that's JOHN Speaks. I'm sure I'm gonna share with Queen A. I know she's gonna share with you guys. Right, that's on Instagram. And you can check out my website too, www.johnjohnsonspeaks.com. So check out my videos, things like that, man. We got some dope stuff coming through. You definitely want to stay connected. We got some amazing stuff. If you like what you heard today, and just work with young people in general, check out my work. If you like that and it connects, man, we got some stuff coming through for you. So make sure you stay in the loop, because we got some exciting things on the horizon. So appreciate this opportunity, man. This is dope. Stay in touch, stay connected.
Oh
Let's get
man. Oh, you already know I'm here with it. So let them know
it.
what part of the world you in, and like what kind of programs like you be offering, just so anybody that's looking for them kind of programs can reach out to you for that.
For sure, absolutely. So we are in New York region. So I'm in New York region on the East Coast. We did have our first event in North Carolina, so that was awesome. So we do travel, right? We really across the country, man. Wherever God's leading us, wherever the need is there, and it aligns with our message and mission, that's what we want to serve. But we're doing programs around social emotional learning, effective communication, leadership, and most recently, I would say like marketing, right? How you present yourself for young men, that has become big. So some mentorship programs, right? We're helping young men, and young women, but especially young men in particular with, catcalling, issues around disrespect, respecting elders, academic performance, like you name it. Like if it's something we could speak to, we want to come in there, because at the end of the day, the character brought me this far, and I've truly seen the fruits of my labor. And so I just want to pour back. And so we got some stuff coming through, and I would sum it all up with really helping them understand how to lead their life, right, and not just live it, right, how to shine their light, right. One of my favorite scriptures on the way out, I'm gonna close with this one. One of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 5:16, right, reminding us to let our light shine, right, that men may see our good works and glorify our creator. So regardless of what you believe in, I just want to encourage you to shine your light, right? To understand that you have something to give to this world, right? That's so powerful. And so for me, that changed my life as a young man. And so, man, that's all we're trying to do, as we build up the young people. So, man, I appreciate this, man. Slap them with truth, tap in, connect with us, man. We on the way up. Let's go.
Hey, he already up. I just
Come
want to tell
on.
y'all, these young men out there,
Mm,
tap in. Like he said, he's all over the
mm.
globe. You heard him. So it don't
Yeah.
matter where you at. Tap in to him.
Yes.
Follow him on
Yes.
Instagram,
Yes.
on
And it,
YouTube, Facebook. And like
yeah.
he said, the best way is Instagram. So we give y'all the
Yeah.
best way now. Don't say we ain't tell y'all the
Tap
best
in.
way.
Right, tap in.
Right.
And look, if you're a young man, real quick too, quick Queen, remind me, I want to zone in. Right, we've been speaking to you this whole time, but if you're interested in becoming part of my mentorship community, my brotherhood, right, I want to drive that point home. Definitely reach out. You're gonna want to reach out, right? So this is for young brothers or teachers, administrators, decision makers, whoever might be kind of listening, but especially for my young brothers and young people who want to be a part of that mentorship community. DM me, reach out ASAP, because we're working right now. We would love for you to be a part.
Hey, and y'all heard it right here, y'all. Don't say I Queen A don't be bringing y'all. I be bringing y'all the juice. Like we slapping y'all with
Yes,
the real truth, not what y'all the kind of truth that the world expected me to slap y'all with, right?
all
We
day.
slap y'all with on here. That's
All day.
what it's all. So
Yeah.
make sure that y'all reach out to Mr.
Mm,
John Johnson. Y'all heard what
mm,
me, and I can't stress it enough. Please reach out to him.
mm,
Please.
mm,
Like I say, we're not raising young boys, we're raising
mm.
young men. So all my young,
Yes.
my men out there, little boys, y'all are young men to me because that's what y'all are eventually going to become. All right. And I want
Mm.
y'all to remember that nobody else loves y'all. Y'all already know. Queen A does.
Oh,
Later.
yeah.